On Easter Sunday of 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Kyle Larson, along with many other NASCAR and international motorsports stars, went on iRacing, and Kyle Larson said the N-word. And he was fired from his job at Chip Ganassi Racing. Chip Ganassi Racing no longer exists as Chip Ganassi sold his team to um, Justin Marks and Pitbull to form Trackhouse Racing. Kyle Larson is a two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion pending post-race inspection. Um, After finishing second to Ryan Blaney today at Phoenix International Raceway. Yes, he did technically score the most points over the course of the 36 race season, but he does not feel like a deserving champion because Denny Hamlin won the most races, was the most consistent driver over the course of the year, and on top of that, has led like 234 laps. This race was very reminiscent of what happened to Denny Hamlin at 2008, at Richmond in 2008, and I am very much not happy about the outcome. But the good news is, after Jesse Love won a championship yesterday in the Xfinity Series, it's looking like we're never going to have to deal with a single race championship again. A lot of people probably don't remember this, but Denny Hamlin led 385 of the first 386 laps at Richmond in 2008 before having a tire go down. And the reason you don't remember this, or the fact that Clint Boyer won the race, is because Kyle Busch wrecked Dale Jr. in that race and led to him becoming one of the most hated drivers, not only in the garage area, but in the sport since, well, really since Jeff Gordon. And that was when Jeff Gordon was becoming lovable because it was right in the middle of Jimmy Johnson's third of 5 consecutive championships. Now, this championship, to me, showed a few things. Yes, this was the first year that all 4 drivers were deserving, and it felt like all 4 drivers could have come down to the wire, much like the 1992 Hooters 500, where Alan Kulwicki won the championship while Bill Elliott won the race. And the reason the 1992 Hooters 500 comes up so often is because it was a race where it was a naturally occurring Game 7 moment. Just like we had this year. We had a Game 7 moment literally last night in Game 7 of the World Series. We had a Game 7 moment like 10 days prior in Game 7 of the ALCS. The Mariners took the Detroit Tigers to the bottom of the 15th inning before they won the American League Division Series. All of that naturally occurred. None of that was manufactured drama by saying, oh, you had the best season, but you got eliminated because you had one bad day. That was the main problem with the single game wild card playoff game for Major League Baseball as well. Now, Major League Baseball is not the greatest example because hitting a baseball is the hardest thing on earth. But knowing what we know that in motorsports you compete essentially against the same people every year. NASCAR and the National Hot Rod Association are the only 2 motorsports that use playoffs. Now, playoffs kind of make sense in the National Hot Rod Association because drag racing is weird. But in IndyCar, whoever scores the most points over a full season wins the championship. Yes, that can be skewed because there is the gimmick that the Indianapolis 500 is worth double points. But that's fine. In Formula One, whoever scores the most points over the course of a season wins the championship. Same thing in IMSA, WEC, everything. And that shows you that you not only were consistent, you won races, you didn't have the mechanical failures that other cars had, you didn't crash. It shows that you have the ability. This year, Shane Van Gisbergen was a championship contender. He was not anywhere near the top 16 in points. He just won on all the road courses. And the reason for that was because he's a road course ace. And he has been improving on ovals. Phoenix is extremely much like a road course. Phoenix and Martinsville actually are like a road course. And I do believe that if Shane Van Gisbergen had won his way into the round of 8, he would have likely potentially won at Martinsville or lucked his way into a win at Talladega and then won at Phoenix and won the championship. And that would have been a blight on NASCAR because, yes, NASCAR created the chase for the Cup because Ryan Newman won 8 races, but also failed to finish 9 times in 2003. Failing to finish 9 times out of 36. That's a quarter of the season. Sure, technically like a little under a quarter of the season he also won, and he also won like 13 poles. Man didn't even win Rookie of the Year that year. Jimmy Johnson did. And Matt Kenseth won the championship with one race win. Jimmy Johnson had more points than Newman as well because he was consistent. This was when Newman was with Penske in the All-Pel Dodge. Um, and with all of that, NASCAR created the chase for the Cup. The top 10 in points after the first 26 races have their points reset with bonus points for your finish throughout the regular season. And that changed a bunch of times over the course of the next 10 seasons before they created the current win and you're in with eliminations format in 2014 that was won by Kevin Harvick. If we take back the exact same format they gave us in 2014, a winless Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins the 2013 championship. And that was something that people pointed out to NASCAR in 2014 in the preseason when they said this is stupid. Now, there have been changes to this. One change I like is the stages and the cautions because it allows us to artificially bunch up the field and allows us to have the TV partners with a guaranteed full screen ad break twice during the race. It means that it's scheduled. We know when it's going to happen. You can use, obviously, red flags can happen. The stages are great. The green-white checkers are great because it allows us to get green flag finishes, and it allows us to miss minimal action with the network partners going to full screen commercial because obviously they have to make money. Now, there's two to three things that have led to NASCAR's decline in viewership. One of those things is actually the playoffs. The playoffs are something very upsetting to a lot of fans of motor racing because they're like, we don't want to be like stick and ball sports. We are a separate thing. We want the guy who was best all season to be the champion and all of that. The second thing is there has been a rise in other stuff to do and to watch. When NASCAR was at its height from probably 1999 to 2006, Netflix wasn't really streaming, YouTube wasn't a thing yet, there wasn't TikTok, there wasn't any of that stuff. And all of that came and kept going and going and going. And in addition to that, there's actually four things. The NFL has made it more and more accessible over the course of the last few seasons to watch good games. I just finished watching the Bills beat the Chiefs. I watched the fourth quarter, 28-21. That game was free, over the air, nationally televised on CBS. Great matchup. They didn't hide that matchup on Monday Night Football. They moved Monday Night Football to ESPN and ABC so that it's on two channels. Thursday Night Football is streamed for free on Prime. And the next thing is also related to the NFL. The NFL has actually not gotten safer. There have been a lot more violent hits and a lot more violent injury that's not as celebrated now, but there's a lot more coverage of it and a lot more violence in the NFL. NASCAR, fortunately, has been safe. The last death at a NASCAR-sanctioned race happened in 2009 in Mexico City in a NASCAR Mexico Series. The last death in what is now a NASCAR series, the ARCA Menard Series, was Blaze Alexander in 2002. And the last death in the NASCAR Cup Series was Dale Earnhardt in the 2001 Daytona 500. And that led to a very large increase in safety. And people wanted danger. They wanted to see what would happen. A lot of people do watch motorsports for the action of the people crashing and the aftermath of what happens and the consequences of that. And that is just an unfortunate part of human nature that I don't think we can overcome right now, and I'm not going to get into the philosophical impact of that. This is just a statement of fact. Other things that have happened. We've got more video games than ever before. We've got more access to more content than ever before. Now, I think the playoffs are the biggest factor. None of the other ones are the biggest factor. Motorsports fans want a champion who showed that they are the best over the whole season. They also want... there are also times when you can be called a champion when you're not a champion of the season. We call the winner of the Daytona 500 champion. We call the winner of the Indianapolis 500 Indianapolis 500 champion. We call the winner of the Le Mans 24-hour champion of the 24 hours of Le Mans. Because they showed that they were the best over 24 hours, 500 miles. We don't do that at Monaco because they showed that they were the best over a lap. because Monaco is all about qualifying. I suppose technically they were the best over 3 laps now, and that's an even bigger problem because we don't get to watch the damn lap. That's a whole thing. But yeah, the playoffs are just there, and people are upset because it means that their driver could have had 10, 12, 14 wins. Could you imagine if Jimmy Johnson in 2007, when he won 10 races, and Jeff Gordon won 6, and Hendrick Motorsports won 18 as a whole, went into Homestead Miami Speedway and didn't have a chance to win a championship because he crashed the week before at Martinsville and didn't have enough points to carry him through to Homestead, and Jeff wins that championship because he wins that race. I don't think Jeff didn't win the Homestead race in 2007. He won it in 2013. Jeff had a chance to win a championship in 2015. Yeah, because his 93rd was at Martinsville in 15. Jeff Gordon has scored the most points 7 times over the course of a full season. Only three other drivers in the history of motorsports have done that, and actually 4. But in top level motorsports, it's 3. No, it's 5. Only 5 other drivers have done that. Jeff Gordon's done it. He's a 4-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. Richard Petty's done it. He's a 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, 200 race wins. Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s done it, 7-time Cup Series champion, 76 race wins, 34 race wins at Daytona International Speedway. Michael Schumacher's done it, 7-time champion, 96 race wins in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton's done it, 7-time champion, 103 race wins, 103 poles. Literally the greatest driver of all time in Formula One. On top of that, he is also the majority of the wins for black drivers in motorsports, but that's a whole other thing. That in the history of motorsports, major motorsports, meaning NASCAR, Formula One, and IndyCar, black drivers have won 112 races, and 111 of them have been in my lifetime since 1994, with the only other one being Wendell Scott in the 60s. That's more of an equity question, because there are talented black drivers. The problem is they don't have the opportunities. The other one who's done it is Richie Evans, who did it 9 times, and actually scored so many points in 1985 that he was able to clinch the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour Championship while being dead. He actually was killed in an accident before the end of the season. And imagine if somebody had such a big points lead now that they died, and they would have clinched the championship. Could you imagine how pissed people would be if somebody had the audacity to go out and say, no, this guy's the champion, even though under a full season points format, nobody could catch him? It's ridiculous. And I think that there's a bunch of things that NASCAR needs to do. NASCAR is considering moving back to a full race 36-point race season, maybe a 38 race or 39 race point season, possibly putting the Busch Clash, the Daytona Duels, and the All-Star race into points, because there's really no point in them otherwise. Possibly considering going back to the 10-race chase for the Cup with 12 drivers, top 10 points plus 2 wild cards, which would be the winners, which they did from 2010 to 2013. Yeah, 2013. Trying to remember when Spingate was. I think that was 2013 when Jeff Gordon was added to the chase as the 12th driver, or as the 13th driver. Yeah, it must have been 2013, because the following year we went to 16. And we had the round of 16, round of 12, round of 8, round of 4. And with all of that, the other option they have is 1-4-4, or no, 3-3-4 elimination rounds, which I think is the second dumbest idea I've ever heard. The dumbest idea I have ever heard was the guy who said we should do 35 races, full points, top 16 get to battle it out for a championship, and whoever finishes first wins. That I saw some guy on Reddit post today. And I think that's the worst idea I've heard since, that's the worst idea I've ever heard, actually. But yeah. So, congrats to Kyle Larson, pending post-race inspection. Denny Hamlin goes a 20th season without a championship. He is a three-time Daytona 500 champion and 60-time race winner, so I do believe that puts him in the all-time greats discussion ahead of Mark Martin just slightly, as Mark never won the Daytona 500 officially. I watched the replay of the 2007 500. He won that race. Um, but then on top of that, we have William Byron, who finished 30 spots behind Kyle Larson today, who potentially could have won a championship, and then Chase Briscoe blew a tire today and lost out on his chance to win a championship because it was all in a single race. Kyle Larson or William Byron would have been champion in a single season points format, and they would have been within 35 points of each other, which is a single race, and Larson actually would have won. So congratulations to Kyle Larson on your second NASCAR Cup Series championship.